So, while I and plenty of other fans really enjoyed Web of Shadows, sadly the sales numbers just weren't enough, and Shaba Games unfortunately shut down just a year after the game's release. But a new studio was about to come around and give us Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. Enter Studio Beenox. Beenox actually had a little bit of experience with the Spider-Man games as they were responsible for porting games like Ultimate Spider-Man to the PC. So with Shaba and Treyarch stepping out to either be out of business or go make the next Call of Duty or something, I can only assume that Activision decided that their best bet was to hand the license to a studio that already had some experience with the character and that were involved with their development to some degree. Beenox decided that it was time to turn in a different direction with Shattered Dimensions. The open world concept had worked pretty well before, but they were concerned that all the potential with that design had been spent, and that it was time to find a new focus. This meant level design and combat. As for the story, this actually wasn't seen as too terribly important this time around. It seemed like a good time to play it safe and focus on a concept that serves a compelling gameplay setup rather than a complicated narrative. So Mysterio breaks into a museum one night and tries to steal an artifact known as the Tablet of Order and Chaos, but our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man arrives to put a stop to the robbery, but accidentally destroys the tablet. Mysterio escapes with part of the tablet, but something greater is clearly wrong. Madam Web pops in and tells the wall crawler that the tablet is an item of great power and importance, and that fragments of it have been scattered across several dimensions. If the tablet isn't put back together, the very fabric of time and space could be at risk. Madam Web contacts the respective versions of Spider-Man in each dimension, and sends them out to collect the tablet pieces and restore order. We have the Amazing Spider-Man, the guy that got us into this mess, a version of Spider-Man from the distant year of 2099, I mean, that's more of a time period, not a dimension, but if this thing is a threat to both time and space, then I guess it makes sense. Spider-Man Noir, who's stationed in a noir-style version of Marvel's New York, filled with gangsters and madmen. And finally, Ultimate Spider-Man, who receives a version of the symbiote suit that, thanks to Madam Web, won't try to eat him alive this time. The game progresses one level at a time, with a different villain gaining possession of the tablet shard and is even given increased strength and new powers, and that dimension's Spider-Man sets out to get the rock back. Travel through each level, beat the crap out of the villain there, get the shard back, and move on to the next level. The story threads are typically episodic. What I mean is that each level for every Spider-Man is connected by the same theme, but that the events don't always lead into the next level. Although this does change a little bit for the Noir and 2099 Spider-Man, as both are led to villains that either control or were involved in the creation of the other villains they faced. At one point, Mysterio discovers that the tablet piece he obtained gave him power over real magic, rather than just simple illusions, and threatens to kill Madam Web if Spider-Man doesn't deliver the rest of the tablet to him, giving him ultimate power. Once the tablet is complete, Mysterio nabs it and starts going nuts with power. With the walls between time and space blurring into one another now, the four Spider-Men are able to join forces and defeat Mysterio. The Tablet of Order and Chaos is returned to safety, and each Spider-Man... No, not again.
How far does Thanos' power reach?
Each Spider-Man returns to their own world and return to their lives as heroes. And that is the easiest time I've had summing up a story in a game in a long time. You know what? I welcome the simplicity here. I loved Web of Shadows, but even I needed something a bit simpler after how insane that game got. And while everything is pretty basic here, there's still enough going on in each level to keep it all from feeling bare bones or anything. So that's it for the plot, but how's the gameplay? Well, the first thing to point out is that the web swinging isn't given much focus here. There are a few places to use it, but overall your main mode of travel will either be web zipping along key points or getting from place to place the old-fashioned way, on the walls. This might seem disappointing at first, but not only did I get used to it, I actually came to appreciate it after a while. There's enough small sections of web swinging, so I don't feel like the developers just forgot about it, and it still feels like an important part of the character here. But now that Beenox isn't focused on trying to make a big open world sandbox work, they were able to design clear and fun levels and locales, which all take advantage of Spider-Man's abilities outside of his ability to web swing, which is a welcome change, if only for one game. Combat is great. It's fun, it's snappy, it's powerful, and each Spider-Man is given their own twist. Amazing Spider-Man uses his webs in fun and creative ways to beat up enemies. Spider-Man 2099 is more agile, moving around a bit, and can even speed up fast enough to claw down his enemies like a hot knife through butter. He's also got these really neat skydiving missions just to shake things up a little bit. Ultimate Spider-Man uses the tendrils of the black suit to waste rooms full of enemies, and can even enter a rage mode that amps up his power to ludicrous degrees. Spider-Man Noir has some really neat stuff going on with his levels. His gameplay focuses largely on stealth. It actually kind of reminds me of the Batman Arkham games. There are a few moments in which he's given a room full of enemies to beat up, but for the most part, he's focused on moving quietly and getting the jump on his foes. On top of defeating enemies, there's also challenges. These are little objectives set out in each level, like getting through an event in a certain amount of time or collecting enough emblems. By beating up bad guys and completing challenges, you'll receive experience points that allow you to purchase upgrades to each version of Spider-Man and learn new combat moves or increase their endurance. This helps keep the variety coming as the game progresses, and it's a good reward for going off the beaten path a little bit. Boss encounters are fun too, creating fun and unique encounters with the villains of each level and giving the player small puzzles to solve in order to defeat the enemy. It's never anything too complicated, but it's nice when the game gets the gears in your head turning a bit. You know what else is a ton of fun in this game? The presentation. I love it, I love it, I love it. Each dimension is given its own art style, and it lets the universe pop, or just really let the attitude of that version of Spider-Man shine. The models are masterfully crafted, the textures and colors are varied and beautiful, and the animations are fantastic. The level of expression coming from each and every character in this game is truly masterful, and Shattered Dimensions is just great to look at. It's also nice to listen to, but this is one aspect of the game that I feel is a bit more average. The voice performances are good, with each Spider-Man having their own voice actor that fits their personality. The one cast member I'm kind of confused by though is the voice of Miguel O'Hara, the Spider-Man of 2099.
That's me, ready to save the universe and looking good while doing it.
Have you ever read the 2099 comics? Miguel O'Hara is a neat character, but he's also pretty irritable, stern, and not at all the kind of guy who would match up with this voice. To be clear, the voice performance itself isn't bad, but it doesn't fit the character based on his source material, so I gotta call poor casting on that one. Still, the rest of the cast fits in really well. One of my favorite inclusions is the master himself, Jim Cummings, as the Goblin from the Noir story and Kraven the Hunter in the Amazing Universe. The rest of the sound design is well done, but I can't call the music anything above serviceable. It's fine, there's just nothing particularly memorable about it.
So, do I recommend Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions?
You know, it's funny. I played this game a few years back and didn't think much of it. Ever since, I considered it a disappointment, but now, and I really don't know what changed here, but I had a great time playing this. I sat down to record footage of the game fully expecting to be bored and just try to get the game over with, but I had an absolute blast. So yeah, I do recommend it. It's different for sure, and I know that the lack of web swinging will be a deal breaker for many people, but honestly, if you have the spare time and some cash, please give Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions a fair shot.
So, now Beanox was in charge of the Webhead's gaming adventures, and in the next title, they were going to take two of the characters from this game and mold them together into their own adventures. So, in the next episode, I hope you join me as we take a look at Spider-Man: Edge of Time. Thanks again for watching, everyone. See you next mission.
Thank you for playing. Would you like to try again?